Okay, let's start the meeting. Welcome to the City of Cross Lake final assessment hearing for Daggett Bay Road. Mike, can I turn it over to you?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. We're here tonight to talk about the final assessment hearing. And just real quickly, the way this works is back in September 30th, notices were mailed out to each impacted property owner, along with posting in the paper that we're having this meeting tonight. So this is what really kicked it off. And if you remember, prior to September 30th, we had a preliminary assessment hearing back on the 9th of September, where the engineers and council and staff talked with talked about the project and how it was going to run. So at this point, I'd like to turn it back over to Dave Reese to talk about a review of the project cost and the assessment roll.
Okay. So the purpose of this final assessment hearing is to discuss the assessments as they've been prepared by us and the city staff in accordance with the city's assessment policy ordinance. Just a brief statement to begin with. Project scope has not changed. It's as was presented at the preliminary improvement hearing with the all of the residents that have property along the project area. So I'm just going to put that up here. This is the project area for the benefit of council and those present, those that may wish to review the meeting afterwards. I've provided the assessments as they're stated on the assessment roll on this map. It may be a little hard to tell the color, but red is for road assessment, green is for sewer assessment. And so you can see that the two properties that are lake properties would receive the sanitary sewer assessments of $7,500 each, and the city will be receiving an assessment for sewer. All of the other numbers are road assessment numbers. There will be no road assessment to the two lakeshore properties at this time, and there will be no sewer assessments to 1, 2, 3, 4 properties as was discussed following the preliminary improvement hearing. So that is one change from the original proposed assessment. And the city will be paying roughly $24,000 in road assessment. Okay. So the total costs to be assessed on this project amount to $77,291. Each of the property owners were provided with notice of this meeting. The purpose, again, is to talk about the assessment value and the benefit received by the property owners. If I understand there were no written letters or concerns submitted to the city as of this meeting that was scheduled for this evening. So the only final comment that I have is that should the council approve the resolution adopting the assessment tonight, which it has the latitude to do, then the 30-day appeal period would begin. And after that period has elapsed, then this assessment roll would be submitted to the county auditor's office for placement on the assessments in 2020, property assessments. Each property owner has the right to pay their assessment in full within that 30-day period without accruing any interest. And so that's a statement that we make each time we do a final assessment hearing, just so it's a matter of record. It was provided in the notifications, and so that should be clear to everyone. Having said that, first, if the council has any questions that I may answer, we can do that. And following that, if there's any individuals that have any questions or would like to address the council, we can do that. Okay?
Now, the sewer system assessment is not, is it being just gone, or does it come back another day?
My understanding is that the sewer assessments would be applied in the next project. So it was discussed at the preliminary improvement hearing with the testimony that was given by these property owners here and here, that they would be potentially served from the next extension
Okay.
because of the location of their septics, particularly that one and this one. This one has a septic located on this side of the home, and so it would probably be easier to connect in the next extension. And for the councils, you may be aware that a petition has been received by the city for further extension of city sewer out into this area. And so that's being validated for the next extension.
Okay, Dave, on top of this assessment charge, there's a connection charge,
That's right.
correct? And we're not going to talk about that. I mean, that's,
That's in the city fee schedule. It's not part of this proceeding. It's a requirement as part of.
what was the connection charge when we first put the sewer in?
I believe, if memory serves me right,
Do you
it
know,
was
Ted?
about $3,000 for a residential property connection,
Do you, is that what it was?
Yes. I believe so. It is.
3,000.
5,500 for commercial.
And now it's 4 and 60 or 7,500.
Right.
65 for
It's-
commercial?
6,500 for the connection charge. Don't get that confused with the assessment.
It's confusing to me, yeah.
4,000 for residential.
So connection charges are completely separate from
I know.
assessments.
I'd have a hard time keeping them straight, but. So if it was 3,000 18 years ago roughly, in today's dollars, is 4,000 a fair amount?
Well, it's adjusted as deemed necessary by the city council to account for the costs that the city incurs.
No, I know, but I mean,
For-
in today's dollars compared
Yeah.
to 18 years ago
I think it's
dollars, is it-
comparable to a lot of communities in the area.
You also got to realize that the cost of running the sewer plant has went up too.
No, I know, that's why I'm
So
trying to get it
that's
in
why
today's dollars.
The connection charge would actually go up too.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, I got a couple things that are bothering me a little bit. The other one is now we're doing this assessment, and I know we got to do it so we can move forward, but 30 days from now, these people are going to be liable or paying interest on the money that the project isn't going to probably go until April or May.
That's right.
So, I mean, is this something we really want to do today? And charge them money over the winter for no benefit of any kind?
We've done it with other projects, Dave. Green Island Bridge.
Okay, is that something we want to do, or do we want to just wait till the spring and then do it and charge them ahead of, at the time?
Do it and get it over.
If I was
with
one of the
this
people there, I'd be saying, we're not going to get the thing for 6 months, what are we paying for it now? So I'm asking that question. And then this is going to set the precedent for all charges moving forward. We are agreeing that this is going to be the assessment.
Yeah.
What percentage of, what did we have a range from $5,000 to $10,000 per residence? And we went in the middle of it?
It was based on benefit opinion
Okay.
prepared by a appraiser. for this particular area.
And they give
And
us a
so-
range.
So to make the statement that this will set the precedent for all future assessments, I wouldn't say that's true, because you may have a benefit opinion done in a different area that evaluates the property or the benefit differently.
Okay, but we've got another one coming up
Yeah.
soon too, and that is the same as this.
It's the same process, the same
Isn't the
basis.
benefit about the same?
I would expect it may be. The value of the property or the benefit to the property and the next project.
So did they
may
give
be
us a
slightly
range
different.
on that benefit?
Yes,
And what, was that from $5,000 to $10,000?
yeah,
And so we went in the middle and
yeah.
that's how we came up with 7,500.
That was discussed at length at the
I
Public
know
Works
it
Commission
has.
meeting.
I know it has.
So 18 years ago at $3,000, at 2% inflation, not compounded, is 1,080 more.
So it's
So you want to go to
4,000.
4,080, or do you want to pick 3% and go to 1,620 more? That's the question you were asking, I think, is it?
It
And
is
it is.
kind of,
It
you know,
looks-
the connection
looks
charge
light.
seems light to me, and the assessment charge seems heavy to me, and that's just the way I look at it. And now, before we approve this, is probably the time to get it on the table. Because once we do this, this is policy.
You're following a policy that you've adopted,
Yeah.
yes.
I've had citizens talk to me and say they'd gladly pay $10,000 to be able to hook up to a sewer.
They don't have to
Costs like-
hook up, do they?
They don't have the option right now.
Go ask one of these guys out here.
Well, fair enough, but I've had people tell me that they would love it to have a sewer. And,
No, it's a benefit. Okay.
You know, we
Well,
did a study for this whole area in 2010, and we looked at the number of properties to spread the project cost at that time over, and it was roughly 18,000 per lot. That's just the cost.
Today's dollars and 18, 20 years ago dollars, it was so different. I don't know how you'd put a 2 or 3% on it, because it's just
Well, the
been,
4,000 seems light to me.
It doesn't
For a
follow
connection
inflation
charge.
because it's construction.
well, but
so-
each one gets reevaluated, and it goes to the value that it adds to the property. So the next one
Yeah,
could
but
be
Aaron, you could
10,000.
argue that till you're blue at the head, you know?
We may have,
I mean,
we have a precedent.
I
for here,
understand,
but
that's what we're
it.
being told, and it adds that to the value, but, you know, until you put a sign out and you get it sold, you don't know what it adds to it.
Just remember that the assessment policy of the 4,000, 6,500, you're paying for keeping that
Plant
equipment
rental.
in the plant running. The other thing, you're putting the pipe in the ground. The 7,500 is putting the pipe in the ground. So it's two different things that you gotta keep straight. So it's that,
Okay, but my point about it again is we're doing this small project right now and we're approving it, and that's gonna set the basis moving forward, right? I mean, am I wrong?
No, I disagree.
I disagree too. That's not going to set a precedence for,
No, because
Future.
each property value is different. They get back into where I live, I'm going to be probably down in there with Lucy Guttermison, where she's at.
No,
But you
I-
get out here on 66, they're going to be
Lucy
way
is paying
higher.
only for road, she's not doing anything for sewer.
Yeah, but
So her sewer is 6,500, correct?
If you, no.
No? Because she's not on the lake. The lake gets hit a little harder.
yeah,
Yeah, okay. But when we go next week, or whenever we do the 16, the 66 to 16, I think those numbers jive with these numbers.
they're similar.
Well, I think they're really similar, like the same. So, that's what I'm saying
So-
is,
The other thing too, as far as timing goes, yes, the project will be constructed in the spring. The residents that will have sewer made available to them will have 12 months to connect to that sewer. So essentially, that would go to the following spring.
well, yeah, right.
and we're financing that in the meantime.
So can I, because this is new, and we've been hashing over this for several months, can you cover the factors that determine who, what gets 7,500 for residential lot, it's really, if you look at tomorrow's meeting, it's a little different, because it looks like can you talk about area?
Well,
Front
on
footage, is
commercial
it a
property,
commercial's
commercial
different?
property, which the majority of the properties on this small project are zone limited commercial. So they were evaluated based on a square foot basis as recommended by the appraiser to determine the benefit. And again, it was a range of benefit value per square foot.
Okay, well, so the other part of my question is too, is now we're assessing it, and they're saying they got 30 days to pay before we start charging them 4% interest. And that's going through today if we sign it, it's gonna start. And there's gonna be no dirt in the ground until April or May.
That's
So-
right.
So part of my question is, why do we have to do it now? And I
Well,
know
I-
you guys don't want me to say that, but I'm gonna say it
Well,
anyway.
it's just a matter of whether you want to put it on for next year's taxes or the year after's taxes.
Why would you not want to do it now?
Well, because if I was one of the people paying for it, I'm paying for it 6 months before I gain anything for it.
That's the question.
That's my question. Why wouldn't we do it when the project, or shortly before the project starts, instead of knowing that we're going on a freeze-up and it's not starting for 6 months?
But if we didn't decide this for another 60 days, it wouldn't, could it go in the county for next year? It'd have to go in
No.
2021.
You'd be-
Well, I mean,
you'd be
is that how
carrying
we-
the project again
Is
for
that how we
another
do
year.
it, though? I mean, is that what we should be doing?
If you delay it, you're
Choice.
not going to be able to occupy the city hall.
What? Well, I'm not trying to delay anything. The project's already delayed. It's delayed till next spring. What do you mean?
But I'm confused then on what you're trying to,
What I'm saying is that we're charging them, we're assessing them for something today, the end of October, that's not going to be installed or accessible to them until the end of April or end of May.
There's
So-
no benefit to them until that.
There's no benefit for 6 months, and so we're charging them for it now, and we're making the payment due or interest accrues throughout the
Yeah.
winter for something that
Look
isn't
at it-
going. That's
look
my
at it-
point. That's the only point I'm
Take
trying
this
to
into
make.
consideration, Dave. The city has incurred expenses to this date today that it's carrying and has carried. And, yes, it won't be built until the spring, but you've been carrying cost on this project. And the only way the city will recoup some of that cost is through the assessments. They'll be available. They won't pay any connection charges, which are separate until they connect. But the assessments will become payable
Okay.
in 2020.
I just want to point it out and make it real clear.
But am I right that if we don't do it now?
This is our time to talk about it,
we-
and once we approve it, it's done,
But
so.
if we don't do it now, then it doesn't hit the rolls to 2021, so then the city is basically carrying it for an extra 6 months or
That's right.
a year. So it's a matter of how much we carry it for. Because
They
if it
actually-
doesn't go in now, we carry it for another year.
I'm an underdog, I'm a little guy,
That's
though.
okay, so-
And so I'm saying that the people who are not getting anything for it are going to carry it for 6 months before they get it, or the city's going to carry it 6 months after that.
Got
So
it.
which one is going to carry the burden?
Well-
That's my point.
Right, but we've already been carrying it. The city's already been
Yeah.
carrying. It's just
So,
about how much
and
more
maybe that's a valid
you want
point.
us to carry.
So I'll quit, but
I'm not picking sides, I'm just putting it out there.
Okay. Any other questions from the city council?
is the
All right.
policy we're using similar to what other cities use?
Yeah, it is.
So we're relatively fair on this?
It varies from community to community and from council to council. A lot of the times, it's just policy that, if the faces on this council change, they may have a different viewpoint or different value system and decide to change the policy. It's something that, we will always recommend that you try to keep consistent and equitable and fair as you can in applying it to everyone. So if the process is the same, then you know, that's about as good as you can get, okay? You don't want to change it year to year so that there's inequities brought about.
And it's built around the league's policy also.
Okay.
So this is kind of statewide as far as, just each city tweaks it a little bit to fit their need.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, then with mayor's permission, we'll open it up for public comment.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
First of all, I just introduce myself. I'm Jeff Pepsky, and it's my trust that owns the lot at the intersection of Brook Street and Jacob Bay Road. So I'm at the end stop there at the end of the T. And prior to this meeting, I've had a number of discussions with several of the people in the room here. I've met with Ted, spoken with Dave, and I've spoken with Mike in the past to get other information. It was news to me tonight that there was going to be no special assessment for the sewer to the people on Brook Street. I thought from my prior conversations that they were going to be assessed at the same time, but that's not why I'm here, I guess, to speak to it tonight. One concern I have with the extension to Brook Street, I guess, is why is it being done on a piecemeal basis? I'm looking at my discussions, I understand that there's people on Norway Trail that have expressed an interest of having sewer line brought there for a number of years ago. It's been brought to the city council, I think, that long ago, and I'm thinking if the city council were to do up a comprehensive plan that would address this entire area all at once, then perhaps it gets done in stages, but at least that sets up a reasonable basis for people for expectations, and also milestones for the city to meet as to when they're going to be doing these different parts, adding on to the sewer line they're proposing now for Brook Street. And it's also my understanding, the only reason we're even addressing the Brook Street extension of the sewer line now is because of the new project, the administrative and city police department, and this building here that's being purely constructed. My concern with my lot, I guess, is we've been there for, I'm thinking 19, 20 years, and we put in a pretty heavy-duty septic system at that time, and it's working fine. I question whether I need a new system at this point in time, notwithstanding the fact that the city has the right to overrule that. I don't know how many properties there are on Brook Street, that if Brook Street is only about 4 blocks long. So I don't understand why Brook Street extension isn't done completely north and south all at once, rather than on a piecemeal basis. What assurance is there to me that Brook Street will get done in its entirety, and what's the timetable for doing so? How long will this Brook Street be torn up, and how many different locations will it be torn up, and provide a barrier to me to get back and forth to my property other than through Daggett Bay Road? I guess I spoke about Brook Street before, and I perhaps meant Daggett Bay Road, speaking with respect to the city administrative building. So I don't know how many properties are on Brook Street right now that would be subject to a future assessment. Do you have that information?
I don't have a count.
Okay. But I'm guessing there's probably 7 perhaps in total, because a lot of them would probably be hooked up off of Kimball Road, or they would be hooked up off of Norway Trail once that extension got finalized. So I'm questioning why there's not a comprehensive plan to do Brook Street all in its entirety at this point in time. Right now, they're proposing to the person to the south of us, the Kurt Dahlman, and the other family that owns that, and with that property belong with that family. I've spoken to them, they're in favor of this, of having city sewer. I'm opposed for a couple of reasons, and one is because it's being done on a piecemeal basis. I don't have any assurance that entire Brook Street's going to get done at some point in the future. My other concern of looking at this right now, and I've spoken to this both with Mike and Dave and Ted, is where that stub line's going to end on Brook Street. Our property is such that we have a U driveway, and where our septic system is now, and we've got a building that's been turned into a guest cottage that was at a prior point in time for a prior owner, I guess, or the prior owner used it for a different purpose. And I don't know if that line extension's gonna be far enough to have a line come in on the north side of that property. We've got lots of big trees in that property, and I don't want to have a sewer line come through where those big trees are and destroy those roots.
Sewer line to your private hookup, you mean?
Yes. So I don't know if that line extends far enough that would allow us to hook up to that line without causing damage to the trees on our property.
No, I don't.
You may have to
That would
put
be a
one,
concern.
You've got control of how you hook your private up, but,
Well, I know, I understand, but if the hookup, the shape of our driveway,
I kind of get it, yeah,
it's a U,
yeah.
and then we have a building, or it's a U into the, coming out of the house, so it's a horseshoe would be looking at it coming from Daggett Bay Road. And that Daggett Bay Road kind of bisects the U if it were to extend. And then on the north side of the U, there's a guest cottage. And so in between, inside that U, it's all trees. There's probably about 20, 30 trees in there, and some are quite large, and the roots, some extend underneath that U driveway. And so we would risk losing some trees if we tried to put a sewer line through there. Our septic system is on the north side of that driveway, so we want to be hooking up to our septic system, which would preferable place would probably be on the north side of that gas cottage. So I don't know if that current stub that they have on Brook Street would go far enough to allow that to
I think they're gonna have directional boring capabilities to go underneath everything to hook some stuff up. I don't know that I should even be commenting on it, but
But that's something that's it's my expense, I understand, from Brook Street to my property. So I want to make certain that the connection to Brook Street is an appropriate location for me to hook up to that. Since
well,
it's-
he's gotta talk to you about it, and you gotta kinda consider that, right? I mean, that,
If you'd like me to speak to that.
yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So what typically happens during a sanitary sewer extension project is that each of the property owners will be met with on site to look at the best location for sanitary sewer service. And if there's a particular concern about, interfering with trees or something that's already an improvement on the property, we can usually have the flexibility to move the location of that service along the frontage. And we did provide you with a drawing that shows where approximately the extent of the frontage along your property where the service could be located. And even at the end of the project, a service can be slightly angled even further toward the property line. So there is some flexibility with that in working with individual property owners to get that located so that it works out the best for them as standard practice. So.
Yeah, I've got that with me here, and I guess I didn't notice it before, exactly where my lot line is. It's more clear on this. It was cut off on the sheet that I had.
I'm gonna touch on your concern about a partial job, or why do we go and stop at Brook Street? Part of it is dewatering Daggett Bay Road, and we have to get almost to the end of the road to dewater it. And if we don't run it down there, then we gotta do it twice. It's gonna add $50,000 to the project or something. I mean, is that correct? So that's kind of what pushed us to go down to the T. Then we get out of the water, we're ready to hook up the next lake. So that's why it happened. Otherwise, we'd be going just to City Hall.
Okay.
But as long as we gotta do that, we decided to run it down. They've brought a petition in, so I think the Norway Trail or the Kimball Road is gonna, I think we've kind of authorized to move forward on the feasibility of that, haven't we?
Yeah, Norway Trail is on the south side of it.
Yeah, but I think that's gonna move forward in the next year or so, so.
We're not quite to the feasibility stage on the next
Okay.
part of that.
But we kind of,
We've received the interest, and then the next step would be to validate that interest.
Validate the petition.
yeah.
Yep.
You don't know what's gonna happen in the future, but I think we're all kind of in agreement that if they want it, we're gonna give it to them. So,
And just to restate this once again. The assessments to the properties individually would not change regardless of how the ultimate build-out of sewer extension is to the area. It's based on benefit. And
Right.
of course, to the city, it makes quite the difference because scale of project can affect the type of pricing that you get. But it makes sense to complete this project all the way to Brook Street for the reasons that Dave mentioned and some other reasons as well. But whether or not all of Brook Street were added to this project would not change anyone's individual assessment. It's based on benefit.
Yeah, I guess going back, one of my original concerns, I mentioned our septic system works fine now. I don't know if we will have, let's see, I guess how can I say it? If we have an unfinished stub sewer line that we're connecting to, if that will still adequately address our septic system needs or our current sewage disposal system that we have right now with our septic system, if that will still be the same, we won't have any issues because we're at the end of the stub. I know it's graded and stuff, it'll be gravity force that will take our sewage to the sewer line, and from there also take it down to the intersection and then back down to Dave. Is the way I understand it's gonna work? Is that
Yep.
correct?
Well, we haven't taken any elevations on private property sewers, so we can't guarantee or say with certainty that it can be a gravity service line, or maybe it has to be a pressure line to get to the stub.
But as far as the city-owned sewer line, that will be all gravity-based?
That's right,
Yes,
yeah.
That's what I noticed.
Okay.
Okay. I'm looking at Brook Street, and I'm questioning whether that will ever get done. And the reason is the topography of the land. Two lots, north of those two lots, they both go downhill.
Let me just pump it.
So that's gonna require some lift stations and some pumps in, right? And that's gonna be pretty costly for the city to do that for just a small number of properties. So that's my other, reason I guess I'm not for doing just a partial amount of Brook Street. Because how long before that gets done, and how many times does Brook Street get torn up, and then they're talking about improving the road, well, they're improving the road surface on Daggett Bay Road because of the additional traffic required for the new city hall. But you're talking about a new assessment for road as well on Brook
That's
Street at
correct.
some point in the future.
Yeah.
Well, will that assessment be done before or after that sewer line gets in? Or you can, from a logical standpoint, you're not gonna not put the sewer line in before you improve the road, right?
So the road assessments in your case would be applied after the sewer's put in?
After the next connection, the
But
next phase
all of
is
Brook
done.
Street would have to be, all the sewer line would have to go before the
Yeah.
road would be
Yeah.
approved.
That's right.
Right.
Well, the road will be improved, the road is gonna be improved, what you see on the map. It's just, you're not being assessed because we're only doing half of your property. When we continue on and do the rest of it, then you will be assessed for the road.
So, their question then on the road, would there be additional easements onto the property from the existing road? Or would you be, we've got trees that, I don't know what the easements are for the city of Cross Lake, if they're 8 feet, 10 feet for city easements onto public.
Right away, you mean?
Personal property, right away.
Right away?
Easements, yes.
Well, it's 35 feet we actually could go get, I think.
Well, for this project itself right now, we don't foresee the need to acquire additional right-of-way or easements. When you speak of easements, I'm not quite sure what you're asking.
I think it meant right away.
I guess I'm wondering, are we going to eminent domain, or are we going to be losing some of our property to additional road on the frontage of our property on Brook Street?
Is the street going to get widened out? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, basically, yes. Yeah, that's
Okay.
a simpler way of saying it.
Okay, Is it going to be a 33-foot off center or
Yeah.
what?
The road
And
bed might get 4 or 5 feet wider, but that's all
We,
it's gonna
we
be.
did point that out in our feasibility study, that going to the north, the right-of-way that exists is quite a bit narrower than the right-of-way going to the south. And the road isn't centered in the right-of-way going to the south. So, you know, when those projects are designed, that'll be something that we'll have to look at.
That
So-
curve up at the end of Brook Street is not a friendly curve.
The one that goes out to Kimball up there?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's a pretty blind curve.
It's a blind curve and the road
It's very
sucks.
narrow, yeah.
But at this point in time, we're not anticipating that we're going to be asking for easements.
Okay,
So I guess maybe just to summarize here then, I just think the city should consider developing an overall plan for the entire area, even if it's done in stages, and set some timetable up for property owners so they know what expectations they will have going forward from the city, and then the city also will have some milestones that they can work towards as far as completion of the project. I'm not against it being done in stages, I'm just against it being done on a piecemeal basis without an overall comprehensive plan. As far as the cost, that's something for you to determine. I know you've had some discussions as far as the interest being charged, the benefit of that. I'll throw something out just for sake of discussion, for if you wanted to discuss it, you could just perhaps delay the interest charge till the spring and start the interest starting in the spring, but assess it now, just so you guys. I don't know if that's a possibility or not, but I'm not opposed to whatever your policy is on that. I guess everyone's going to be living with that, so I'm not going to address that. But I'm just thinking an overall plan to address how Brook Street and Norway Trail get addressed as far as sewer line, I think would be beneficial for all the property owners in the area.
On that comment, I know we're probably not supposed to talk so much, but in the last year, we did have an engineering firm, Bolton and Mank, look at the whole city. And they chopped it up into possible areas, so that it has been identified. It's just that if we had a huge pot of gold, we'd probably rush and do a lot of this stuff, but we're trying to fit it in with everything else we got going on without making the taxes go up to the moon, so that's kind of what we're looking at, so.
All right, well, thank you for the opportunity to comment.
okay, Mr. Pepsi, thanks.
Okay. If there are no further comments, there's no written comments of record that have been submitted, then the council may decide to act upon the resolution adopting the assessment this evening. And that has been provided.
I move that we adopt the resolution.
I'll second it.
Any closing comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Then you can adjourn.
That's
I make
it?
a motion to adjourn.
Yep.
Okay, we got a motion, a second, all in favor? Aye.